All right, let's hit it. Doing this weekly update in a little different format. I'm in the home office this time. Getting the most out of the StreamYard software that I have for stuff like this. So, as I started off last week, I'm going to do a weekly debrief. This is the debrief for week 25, 2025. My approach is take the upside down filter, do world events, national events, regional events, and how that impacts me on my day to day life. What am I going to do to stay prepared, stay vigilant, uh, minimize the impact on what's going on around me to myself and my family and friends and all that kind of stuff. So, starting at the big picture, of course, this week, Iran, right? Last few weeks, Israel's been pounding the snot out of them, and it's been looming whether the U.S. was going to get involved or not. And we can go, everybody kind of knows the story about that. Well, last night we got involved, right? There was some airstrikes and Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from submarines to Iran's nuclear sites, their uranium enrichment, research, and all that other jazz. I'll leave a few links below to some YouTube videos I've found to be very informative and very pretty much, yeah, non-biased on it as far as what's going on, just basically the facts. Um, and that's hard to find these days, right? The legacy news agencies, they always have a spin on things, and it's hard to get objective data to make objective decisions and try to keep our personal biases out of the facts and try to determine better what we want to do, right? More on that in a second. Uh, so let's just skip the national and regional stuff this week and talk more about this international event because it's kind of a big deal. How is that going to impact me? Overall, I'm not sure, right? The obviously everyone's expecting Iran to respond to this. How they do, I think they're still trying to figure it out. I'm no world analyst on military activities or intelligence, but they're definitely in turmoil right now. A lot of their military has been dismantled by Israel over the past few weeks. A lot of their command structure has been destroyed, so they're kind of running around and figuring out what to do. But they're going to probably do something. Uh, Direct attacks are probably not going to impact me here in northern Wisconsin, but U.S. bases across the Middle East are in northern Africa and Eastern Europe are within range of Iran. So can they do something? Will they be able to? We'll have to see. Probably in the next 72 hours, right? I always wait 72 hours. So what impacts can be for me is not the direct, but are there, the always feared sleeper cells, right? We've all, it's like right out of the Tom Clancy movie. Do they have people in the United States getting ready to do stuff, whether it's attacking a hard target like a military base or a power plant to disrupt things, or softer targets like a uh, a substation for power or a hospital or just general terror, right? Those are a possibility. What's a higher risk in my viewpoint would be more of a lone wolf nutcase, like we dealt with locally here in the Twin Cities area last weekend, or was it the weekend before? Last weekend, I think. Something like that could happen where somebody just decides to start taking out people in the name of Iran. Other thing could be organized protests that, the catchphrase these days, the mostly peaceful protests. They could be originated and started with people of all good intentions of being peaceful. But like I mentioned last week, uh, there's so many bad players out there and people just looking for a fight that that might come in. So obviously, I'm staying away from anything that looks like a protest, and kind of wondering. I think the worst thing that could probably happen to me in my area is a power outage, 2 or 3 day power outage. So that's something to keep in mind. That's always in the back of my mind. We're in tornado and thunderstorm season, so that's a realistic problem with weather on itself. Somebody crazy making things worse for the world could play into it too. Uh, Kind of like I hinted last week, is overall I'm trying to keep a lower profile on stuff, uh, not joining any discussion, so to speak, far as politics on all the crazy stuff going on. Taking a step back, not putting my neck on the line. That's just my take on it. I'm not saying don't protest and wave your flag or whatever you want to do. You be you. I'm avoiding all that kind of stuff because there's too many random players in it. Like I keep repeating, you can go there with the most peaceful intentions. You could be there, but there could be players that are quote unquote on your side that can make things ugly for you. You don't want to get caught up in that. Or the reactions of counter protests, law enforcement, all that kind of stuff. It's just too dicey for me, so I'm staying low. I'm staying out of political debates on social media because I just want to stick away from it. Let the crazies argue with each other and kind of enjoy the shit show from a distance. Keep the peace is what I'm looking at, but also watching out for things that are going to get out of hand. So, my advice for those in urban areas is pay attention to the local news. Uh, Pay close attention to where planned protests typically happen or are going to happen, and think about things where something could spring up in a more kinetic environment, like around police stations, detention centers, airports, traffic bottlenecks where people, go on the freeway and block traffic for their cause, that kind of thing. Have a plan. Uh, if you travel, commute for work, have alternate routes to avoid or quickly get out of areas where you shouldn't be, all that kind of stuff. So there's your advice. Now let's talk a little bit about open source intelligence. I think I hinted last week that I've been following a lot of different political sources, news sources, and whatever on Twitter. And I also follow a lot of independent people, just basically people like me who just spout off their views and ideas on YouTube. Now, most of them are a lot better than me. A lot of them are subject matter experts. I follow a lot that follow military news, shipping news, both naval and commercial shipping, because this world economy depends on those big old tankers and those big old cargo ships going from port to port with all the containers and all that stuff. So what's going on in shipping is very important to follow. Follow what's going on in aviation, where planes are going and all that kind of stuff. So this video is going to get close to the limit that I want to do. That's in our deep dive. I will list in here. I will list one channel for sure on YouTube that you should be watching, and that's the S2 Underground. He does a daily wire news brief, talks about a lot of stuff that legacy media won't touch, and he keeps it pretty neutral for all as the political bias. So he does a good job with that. Other open source things I do, like I mentioned, Twitter. I follow a bunch of, well, I think I've already said that. I follow a bunch of people on Twitter. I use basically a burner account that's not any information to me. The toughest thing is I don't like or comment or anything on any of the people, to just be observing things. So if you lean really hard to the left or the right, that might be a problem. If you take my approach where I follow the extremes from both sides, both of them tick me off. One ticks me off more than others when they get going. And it takes a little restraint to not try to correct them in the comments or make fun of them or anything like that. Uh, and I also don't want to sway the algorithm into me being channeled into one area or another. So I follow some very far left, far right leaning political influencers. I follow some far left, far right leaning news agencies. And then I follow a lot of local news sources, both the local newspapers, the local TV stations, and a big one is law enforcement, state patrol, state police, county sheriffs, municipal police. They will share a great deal of information that's worthwhile. Also, if there's some community groups or pages for your town, your neighborhood, that kind of thing, even the neighborhoods a little ways away, follow those. And again, stay out of the drama. Don't add to it, just observe. You can glean a lot of good, useful information and then try to dissect the bias out of it if you can to make an informed decision. Get real time updates. So that's a big thing. Use social media to your advantage. Um, I'll do a deeper dive on some of the YouTube stuff I do. I'll make a big playlist, or maybe I'll add it right to my YouTube channel. Definitely on the Buy Me a Coffee link. I'll add a bunch of stuff that will channels that I like to follow. So I'll keep that going, and I'll stop repeating myself. I think I covered everything I want for this week. So hopefully you find some of this information useful. More to follow.